Citibot is America's first interactive text messaging and customer service software system with civic engagement with the government is now launching with the City of Charleston government. I sit down exclusively with the founder of Citibot, Bratton Riley, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Bratton Riley, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
It's always good to be with you, my friend.
I appreciate it greatly. You know, obviously you have Citibot,
Yes.
which is America's first interactive text messaging and customer service software system
Yes.
for civic engagement with government. And obviously using text messages, Citibot can help a citizen report a problem, ask a question, or send in a message.
Yes.
And Citibot responds in real time, anytime. What does Citibot mean to you these days?
Thanks for asking. So, first and foremost, it means an opportunity for everyone to have equal access to government. I tell folks all the time, I've lived a life with many privileges, one of which was, watching my father lead the City of Charleston for 40 years and in a pretty elegant way. And I joke with folks that when I would call City Hall and leave a voicemail with a department head, for example, I get a pretty quick phone call back, only because of what my last name was. And, that was great for me. But when you think about, there's a lot of conversation in our country around digital equity.
Sure.
We're talking a lot about how do we get the next version of internet connectivity to the rural areas and to the folks with less means. We talk about 5G networks, expanding, et cetera. So there's a lot of talk about digital equity and a lot of investments that we make to have everyone have access to the internet. The challenge is a lot of people don't. And not everyone has had the privilege of having direct access to local government like I have. So we talk about digital access. I want to talk about equitable access to government. And so the way to do that is to start with a communication channel that everyone's using now. And so 97% of adults in the United States now text message. So when you start thinking about, well, how can we reduce the barriers of communication between government and the people? Well, let's first start with a channel that we know everyone is going to use.
Right.
And so let's start there. And so that's why we started with text message. So what Citibot means to me first is let's equal the playing field and have everyone have the same privilege I did with equal access and connectivity to government, so the government also responds back to them as well. So that's what it means to me.
And you obviously talk about the number of people who are actually text messaging you these days. How many people are actually using Citibot in your mind?
It's a great question. So we're in 15 cities now, 14 cities in one county. In the country. We're just launching right now with Fort Worth.
Yeah, I heard
which is great. They have almost 1 million people. It's the 13th largest city in the country. And so, our goal is to have, tens of thousands of people using Citibot just in their community. We just launched in Arlington, Texas, which has about 420,000 people or so. And so we're just about to break the 1,000 people mark. We're basically a month in. And so we want more and more people to use the system, and we collaborate with the local government to do the proper marketing and promotion to get the word out to residents that here's another way in to local government. And so, we want millions of people using Citibot over time.
Over time?
Yeah.
You talk about over time. How has your relationship been with the rural areas as far as Citibot?
It's a great question. So you would think we would target larger cities because they're more apt to embrace new technology because they have more resources to evaluate new technologies and bring it in. But what we found is, we've got cities as small as 10,000 people. We're actually we just signed last week South Bay, Florida, which has just under 5,000 people, and 1,000 of those people are in penitentiary. So we're super excited about launching in the smaller communities as well as the larger communities because because everyone is text messaging, and we've got data even around senior citizens. The data around even senior citizens texting, even over the last 5 years, has changed lot too, because grandparents have figured out that if they want to get in touch with their kids and their grandkids, they better learn how to text, because that's how they're going to get people to respond to them. So in terms of rural and lower income communities, we've had some great effect there. We also launched a product in Boulder, Colorado, which is a very affluent city, as you know. The city of Boulder realized that they weren't connecting to the lower income neighborhoods like they wanted to, and that they provide city services geared to those populations, obviously around affordable housing, around transportation, around family services, and in some cases financial assistance that they can provide. Some pretty awesome services that the city provides, but what they realized was we're not getting the information to the people around these services. So we want to use Citibot to actually push this content into those targeted neighborhoods to get the word about these services. And so I went out there, and what we all knew was it's mostly Hispanic neighborhoods. So I said, well, take you through those neighborhoods. I want to get the look and feel of what we're talking about. And they're basically trailer parks, neighborhoods with largely folks that speak Spanish as a first language. And so we launched with them in May. And so what they do is they push out targeted communications around these topics of services that are geared towards the lower income folks. And I was talking to them on Friday, they pushed out communications other than through Citibot, through otherwise, to around new affordable housing opportunities that they were offering. So the data that came back was of the 42 people that responded, 36 came from Citibot. Wow. Which is pretty awesome. Right. I mean, that's a relative small number, but you talk about if that converts into 36 units of affordable housing for folks that might not otherwise have even known that it existed, that's pretty powerful stuff. So, as you can tell, I get pretty excited about that. But that's how we're not just an urban, solution for folks that have normal access to local government. We really want to open the door to everyone.
And I know with Citibot, civic engagement becomes easier. City and counties become smarter. How smarter has Citibot become since its establishment?
I am going up a steep learning curve. Let's just put it that way. I learn so much every day, in large part because the best way to learn is by making mistakes. And I've made countless mistakes in trying to figure out how to do this. But, it's like you have to be slightly insane in your somewhat middle ages to start a software company that targets governments, particularly local governments. You have to be slightly insane because the sales cycles are very long, and the process of getting adoption to new technology is by no means instantaneous at all. And so you got to hang in there. But through that process, you got to learn along the way. So I think as a company, what we've learned is how to connect better with the folks that work inside local government. But then also we track data analytics on the communications with Citibot. So one of the things that you're able to do with the product is ask a question. 50 to 70% of the communications that are received by local government. This is all nerdy stuff. This is stuff that I find interesting. I don't know that anyone else does. But 50 to 70% of the inbound communications of the local governments are just residents with questions. They're looking for information. Oftentimes with local government, and I love them, they might send an email or a phone call and they go into a vortex to disappear and not necessarily to be returned. That's not the case all the time, but there is the chance that happens. So what we've learned with our product, you can just ask a question and you receive an answer. And if the answer does not help you, then you can just send in a direct question into government and they will call you back or text you back with the answer. So it's like when you call the 1-800 number and there's a 40-minute hold and they say, would you like to hold for 40 minutes or would you like for us to call you back in 40 minutes. It's like, I'll take that option. I do not want to stay on hold for 40 minutes. Well, it's like the same concept. It's like I send my question into government. They respond back to me and say, someone's going to get back in touch with me. That's very nice. So I don't have to follow up. And then government gets back in touch with me and answer my question. That's very respectful customer service. But what we do is we track all the questions that residents are asking. And so we've learned a lot from just seeing the questions that residents are asking to figure out, how should government serve them better? Because you get to see what they're interested about. So we've learned a lot through that process too.
Amazing. How many questions have you been able to track over the past, 2-3 years?
It's a great question. For example, we launched in Arlington a little over a month ago, Arlington, Texas, and they've asked us about almost 200 questions. And so that's just a representative of one of our customers. But it's thousands of questions. And then you look at each customer, different questions are being asked. Well, how much commonality are the questions across local governments? So we look at that and try to figure out how we can improve our product to anticipate those questions that are asked kind of across communities.
And I know Citibot is obviously the tool for citizens and their governments to use for communication and civic change. What is the state of communication and civic change in your mind right now?
In the country?
Yes, sir.
It's interesting. There are some local governments that are really doing some amazing work, and so I get to go around and meet a lot of these people, and I'm like, I want to bring you here to my community, and share your good ideas with my community because there's some great work going on. So I think, government they are technological laggards. They are not the early adopters typically. But what we're seeing in some cases with some of the cities across the country, they're actually leading the charge. We're embedded in artificial intelligence technology. That's how our technology is. And so we're seeing some other cities really embrace that. And even 3 years ago, when I would say artificial intelligence, people would be like, what are you talking about? And really, the way that I explain it, and literally this is what it is. It's like this mysterious term, but it's not. It's like literally we are pre-programming in software conversations that we think are going to take place so that the technology can anticipate the conversation and process them accordingly. So it sounds all mysterious, but that's really all that it is. But I think what we've seen across the board with a lot of exceptions is that I'll have conversations with local governments all the time, and they'll say, Brad, we just don't know how to promote ourselves very well. And so what I have seen is that governments don't invest in the promotion of what they do that would match up with certainly the corporate world would do. Not that it needs to. It's like marketing in a lot of cases has been an afterthought. And so then you have a disconnect between all the stuff that local government does, and I am super biased towards local government. They provide so many amazing services. There's so many amazing people that are solving problems every day that work for local government. And then is a thankless existence. They're not doing it for affirmation. They're doing it because they want to help other people. And that is why I'm in this space, because I see these people over there. I know what they're doing. But there's been a disconnect between all the great work and stories that these people are doing every day and the people actually understanding what they do. And it's not an automatic thing. So when the city comes and tells me, well, we don't promote ourselves very well, I just want to sit down with them and be like, well, you need to learn how to do that. And so what happens a lot of times, local governments and communications folks, they might have been the beat reporter for the newspaper or come from PR, but they just don't have a marketing background. So that's one of the things we do with our customers. Like, we fold them and wrap them around in marketing. We're just like, here is what you need to use to promote this product to your community. and literally spoon feed it to them. They're so busy, and a lot of times they don't have marketing experience, so we have to supplement that. So we talk about what the change we want to see. We want to see governments opening up to doing a better job of promoting the actual engagement opportunities that are out there.
And what are those obviously engagement opportunities right now?
So, I mean, a great example, sort of the organic stuff that happens. What's the organic engagement stuff that happens even here in Charleston? Well, you've got neighborhood associations.
Right.
They're great vehicles for grassroots connectivity. You've got, elected officials, city council folks that live in the neighborhoods. People can reach out and touch them. There's a lot of engagement happening there. And then from there, you kind of get into the bureaucracy of government, right? And then the bureaucracy has what you normally have. You got social media, you've got some email connectivity, you got a website. Normal local government websites are not great because they're content rich and they're hard to navigate. That's one of the things we try to help manage, because you can just ask a question and return the answer. So you don't have to spend all that time navigating the website. And a lot of folks don't have internet and they do not have a desktop computer. They're not going to the website, right? And so we want to help with that. So I guess the point is there's a lot of avenues for engagement.
Okay.
What there is less of is how can we take the data around engagement as the government bureaucracy and then react to that in real time to make faster, more well-informed decisions to benefit the people faster. And so what we're trying to do is, here's the data from the communications. It's not private information.
Right.
We're not like tracking who's saying what. We're just tracking what's being said and what's being communicated. So then we say to the government, look, this just happened yesterday. Don't you want to get ahead of this? And don't let it sit for a month. And so I think one of the things we can do is help kind of connect the grassroots conversations faster with better metrics to the decision makers so that they can react faster, if that makes sense.
I believe it will. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I know with Citibot, one-sided conversations are a thing of the past, whether citizen or organization, and engagement interactively and in real time. So what type of conversations are you having with people with Citibot?
Well, here's the thing. It's like we are consumers. Every day we're having better customer service experiences with our other providers. So why can't we have that with local government? At the same time, we are who we are. We like instant gratification, and it's part of, the evolution of technology and what's out there. We are used to getting a quick fix, right? And so that's the first thing that we do is it doesn't matter what the resident communicates in. They're getting a response in real time, whether it's 10 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock in the morning. So, that's really the first step is we want that initial reaction to be like, wow, local government cares enough about me to respond back to me immediately. And then let's take it from there.
What gratifications have people received from Citibot?
Well, I think number one is we talk about it with our customers. It's the opportunities for governments to build more relationships of trust with their residents. So, for example, you can use Citibot. Let's say the trash is supposed to be picked up on a Tuesday. I mean, I know this is really sexy stuff for a lot of people here. But trash is supposed to be picked up on a Tuesday. It wasn't picked up. You text Citibot saying my trash wasn't picked up. Citibot comes back and says, sorry to hear that. Give me your address. And then you'll get an instant gratification that it's been reported. So like already with a couple text messages, you're done.
Yeah.
You are done. Just like we're texting each other. Right. And then the city or county will come and, respond back to you if they have a question about it. Sometimes people report that their trash wasn't picked up, but the trash truck came by, but they didn't put their trash bin on time. I know this is so sexy, but this is like the meat and potatoes of like good government, and so, but regardless of whether it was the city's mistake or the resident's mistake, it doesn't matter. They get the respect back. And then when the city fixes something, they get the text message back and say, Mr. Washington, the pothole at 111 George Street was fixed. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. So you, as a resident, when the government comes back to you and says, we did what you asked us to do, and thank you, that is closing the government customer service loop that says we care about you. And we want to help build those relationships of trust, because what's happening is, from the federal government on down, we are trusting government less, and it's trickling down to local government. And so we want to give local governments a tool to fight against those tides of distrust.
It might be a general question, but how many more loops did you all have to really close as far as this is concerned, as far as government?
Well, from a sales standpoint, we're selling a product that governments don't know exists. Mm-hmm. So normally governments look for stuff that's out there to put out an RFP, get 5 people to respond. And, well, no one's doing what we're doing. They're either really smart or we're really dumb. We're doing what we're doing. I'm not sure what yet, but no one's doing exactly what we're doing. Okay. And so we have to go in and educate them on the product first, and then get them to pull the trigger. So our loops are large. But what we're about to launch, and we're tinkering with the final pieces of it right now, is our web chat product. So you've gone to other websites,
right,
where something pops up on the website, says, hello, how can I help you today? Well, that's going to start showing up on the local website. Okay. So all you have to do is show up to the website, and then you can interact directly with the web chat product, ask your question, get your answer, make a service request, communicate in, get what you need. And you don't have to surf the website or do any of that or get frustrated because you can't find what you're looking for. And it'll work here too. So you go to the website on your phone, it'll pop up and say, hello, how can I help you?
Yeah.
And so what we're doing, we're investing our dollars in how to make communications easier. Because the next thing after web chat we're going to do is we're going to go to voice.
Oh.
Hey Siri, can you get me the Charleston Citibot? Oh yes, Mr. Washington, how you doing today? Well, not great because I just ran over a pothole. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Would you like to report it to the city? Yes, I would. You're driving a car. You're not supposed to be texting or using your phone when you're driving. Right. Not that you've ever done
no.
that.
See, I don't want to drive you.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you, thank God.
But anyway, so that's the next paradigm. It's just how can I communicate with my customer service provider without touching anything? Mm. And so that's kind of the next paradigm. So we're always going to be investing our dollars in how do we make those communications and opportunities to connect simpler and easier so that we can have more engagement, more connectivity between residents and their government.
I gotta go to that because you obviously on the website it says this, and connecting all people to their government, we can now do this because regardless of age or social economic status, most everyone uses text messaging on their smartphone or flip phone. Mm-hmm. Who uses flip phone these days?
It's shrieking. So very small. There's still a few out there, but not much.
But let's connect government to where citizens are comfortable communicating, which through text and messenger apps like Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
What is the typical age and social economic status of the average Citibot user?
You're asking some great questions. So we've got some data around that. We've got some data around different age groups and what communication channels they want to use to connect to local government. Right. And again, this is pretty wonky data, but we're barely losing to the in the senior citizen category, 61 and over, to email by like a couple percentage points, text, and then every other age group we win. And so it's really every age group, and then barely losing. I mean, still a lot of interest with senior citizens. I mean, I use my parents as an example. Probably 5 to 10 years ago, they weren't texting. Now they're very avid texters. And everyone's got that anecdote. That's changed. Right. So it'll continue to change. And so our profile is much more of a representative demographic of what communities look like than like social media, for example. And a lot of things that we know this in Charleston, I've lived it my whole life. it's like the vocal minority can get pretty loud, and the vocal minority can get pretty loud on social media. And then in government, you have to see through that to have a better picture of what is in the hearts and minds of all your residents, to make sure you're making good decisions with everyone in mind. If you're just listening to the social media crowd, you can get pretty skewed because there's some loud vocal minority folks. Not that their voice is not important, but sometimes it gets imbalanced. So one of the things that we're able to help local governments do is, because we present a more representative demographic of your community, listen to this channel. Listen to the channel. You can embed a survey into our product. You want to survey the members of the public about, whatever it is. I always joke, it's like, I love local government. And then it's like with CARTA, which they're doing some great work with the electric buses and the rapid transit. Like, I'm so proud of the work that they're doing. Like, it's such a great example of good local government work in our community right now. So proud of it. It's like them or other governments like, okay, we're going to have these community meetings because we want your feedback on where should the bus stops be or whatever it is. And it's just like, the working mom that's got 2 jobs and 3 kids at home, they're not going to that community meeting. I mean, they would love to, but like, how can you open the door for all residents to have their voice be heard and not just listen to the folks that show up at the community meeting because they have the privilege of being able to show up there, right? And so through text, we can be like, okay, here's the information. On your own time, digest it, and then we want to get your feedback. Here's the survey, just click on this and let's get your feedback. So it's like, it's a more representative way of getting equal participation so that we can help government make good decisions too, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of which, I know on the website it also says this: stay informed and keep the conversation going. Receive notifications for the issues reported on city or county alerts.
That's right.
How does Citibot hope to keep the conversation going in 2020?
So one of the ways we're doing it is talking about the census.
Oh, yeah.
So we're working with the city in Washington, state of Washington. Same as the Boulder example, we're trying to connect with the folks whose voices you might not normally be connecting to. So with the census, what communities want to make sure is, what we want to make sure is that everyone gets counted. And there's a lot of distrust in the community because, unfortunately, some of the stuff that the federal government's been doing around, should I trust the census because I am a Hispanic person, or I am different from what a normal privileged American looks like. I don't want to take the census. I'm scared. So local government, being a more trusted source than federal government, they want to make sure everyone gets counted because federal dollars are attached to it, congressional representation is attached to it, so much is attached to it. And so helping local governments get the word out and say, look, here's what the document looks like. Here it is in English, here it is in Spanish, here it is in other languages. These are the only questions that are being asked. No one's going to use that information against you. And then local governments know from 2010, because they have the census heat maps, they call them, where you can figure out where the undercount occurred, what neighborhoods. So we can help local governments target certain neighborhoods to push out that content and be like, you can trust this, please respond. We need a complete count so we can have the resources to come in and help you over the next 10 years. So that's, conversations around ways for government to have more open communications with the public to help them is what we continuously want to be doing in 2020 and beyond.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, Citibot founder Bratton Riley, thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close Up.
Thanks, man. It's always good to be with you.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.